How you doing, guys? BC90 here, back with the next video in my Poise Showcase series, and today we're going to be taking a look at Morne's Greathammer. Now, straight onto my status page here, guys, I am at soul level 125, and as you can see, those are my stats there, guys, and I am using the Prisoner's Chain as per usual, so that's an extra 5 points in Vigor, Endurance, and Vitality. Now, as you can see there, my strength is at 50 and my faith is at 30, and those are the minimum stats you need to wield Morne's Greathammer. Now, over to my equipment page here, guys, I have Morne's Greathammer here at +5, gets a C scaling in strength and D scaling in faith, and with my current stats, two-handed, we're hitting for 610 AR. Now, unfortunately, Morne's cannot be infused or buffed, but 610 AR is still pretty good, guys, and you're still going to see some big hits here today, so I'm not really too concerned there. Now, back over to my equipment page here, I have a Blessed Cestus +10 here in my left hand as a parrying tool, and also for the passive HP regen, so it's about 2 HP regen per tick. I have a Knight's Crossbow +10 here with lightning bolts. Now, usually I like using the Arbalist, but as you can see up there, my weight ratio is at 69.5%, so the Knight's Crossbow is the second best option, and hopefully I get to show off how effective crossbows are here in this video, like I normally do in most of my videos. Now, in my last left-hand slot there, I have the Heavy Longsword +10, which gets an A scaling in strength, and I'm using this here to deal with quick-step users, also to finish people off and chase people down, and it's also good to whip it out to, mix it up a little bit when people are getting used to your heavy weapon attacks from the Morne's Greathammer. So essentially, when people are dodging your heavy hits fairly easily and then are playing hyper aggressively against you, it's good to switch over to your fast weapon there to sort of keep them on their toes. Now, as you can see there in my second right hand slot, I have a Priest Chime, and I will explain why that's there in a minute, but let's go down to my armor. I have the Exile Mask here, the Gundy's Armor, the Ring Knight Gauntlets, and the Gundy's Leggings. Now, as you can see there, I have a total poise of 42.96, and normally when you are using a Greathammer, once you're above 45.85 armor poise, you can essentially consecutively hyper armor trade against every single two-handed R1 in the game from every weapon class. But thanks to Buff the Fug's data, which was released on Reddit about a month ago, the Morne's Greathammer is one of 3 Greathammers that have modified poise breakpoint values. So what this essentially means is that when you're using Morne's Greathammer, you actually only need 42.16 base poise to be able to infinitely hyper armor trade against every two-handed R1 in the game, including from other Greathammers. So we're at 42.96 here, so we're above that 42.16 ceiling breakpoint, and essentially I've managed here to min-max our poise. So what this means here is we don't need to wear Havel's armor, and because we're wearing different armor here instead, we can min-max our poise and use the extra weight to actually equip all these different weapons here in our slots to deal with different threats that the meta throws at you, while still remaining below 70% weight ratio, so no fat rolling. So essentially, yeah, Morne's Greathammer is pretty awesome. 42.16 armor poise is all you'll need, and you'll be, essentially an unstoppable tank once you get into those active frames, guys. So yeah, that's awesome. Now, over down to my rings, I have the Chloranthy Ring +3, the Prisoner's Chain, the Ring of Favor +3, and the Havel's Ring +3. Now, I will say with the Heavy Longsword here, guys, I did initially test this build out with a Sunlight Straight Sword, but obviously the Oath of Sunlight ability is actually less effective in PvP as opposed to PvE, so I'm pretty sure its effects are like halved or something like that in PvP, so it's not that good. And it only really lasts 45 seconds, so essentially any decent player was just spacing me out for the first 45 seconds of the match, and the boost was essentially useless. And after the boost, you're essentially stuck with a straight sword that does less damage than the Heavy Longsword +10, so it actually had less AR than the Heavy Longsword +10, and its ability was fairly useless here for PvP. So instead I switched it over to the Heavy Longsword +10, and I think it's a better longsword, or a better weapon to go for here, or better straight sword to go for here as your fast weapon option, okay? Now, why am I using the Priest Chime here, guys? Well, as you guys know, I'm a big fan of passive HP regen. I think it's absolutely excellent when you have a poise build, because essentially you are going for trades. That's the main damage output you have is trading. and when you're trading hits with people, you're going to be taking damage. So if you have a solid amount of passive HP regen behind you, you're always going to be getting HP back up to be able to go for the next trade and actually enhance your trading capabilities. So you'll, essentially be able to tank more hits without dying, right? So what I like to do here, guys, is I like to open a match by casting Bountiful Light and then switching over to Morne's Greathammer. Now, Bountiful Light actually lasts about 60 seconds and it gives you 7 HP regen per tick. Now, this actually stacks with the Blessed Cestus there in my left hand for a total of 9 HP regen per tick. Now, it doesn't sound like much, but it actually is, guys, and you are going to notice a big difference there in your trading capabilities, as you'll be able to tank more hits for at least the first 60 seconds of the match with a total of 9 HP regen per tick, which is quite monstrous in my opinion, and it's quite awesome. Now, another little neat trick with this is with the Priest Chime, if you have it, two-handed it there, right? What you can actually do is, if you're playing the neutral game, against certain opponents who are really passive, or opponents that are zoning you out or baiting the timer, whatever, if they give you the opportunity to actually do this, what you can do is you can cast Bountiful Light, and then you can also use the Gentle Prayer ability from the Chime. And now that all stacks together with the Blessed Cestus as well for a total of 14 HP regen per tick when all of these 3 items are actually ticking simultaneously. So 14 HP regen per tick is actually pretty crazy, guys. And obviously it's extremely situational. There's not many players who are actually going to let you do this, but you do find the off player that zones you too much or is playing way too passively. And if they give you the opportunity to do this and you can dodge their attacks for about 5 to 10 seconds, you're going to see a massive increase in your HP regen, guys, to be able to go for that next trade. But all in all, just using Bountiful Light with your Blessed Cestus for that total 9 HP regen per tick for 60 seconds is more than enough, and I think it's quite monstrous here, guys. It's really going to enhance how many hits you can take and allow you to go for more trades. Now, that's pretty much it here, guys, for this build here today. I think it is quite awesome in my opinion. So I will be talking about the pros and cons of the Morne's Greathammer at the end of the video. Oh, and I will mention that Bountiful Light actually is not affected by its spell buff, so that's why you can use pretty much any chime you want. Obviously with Gentle Prayer here for me, because if you're given the opportunity to do so, it's quite funny to use to have all those things together. But essentially, Bountiful Light is not affected by spell buff, so you're not going to get more HP if you're using something that has a higher spell buff. And the chime itself doesn't need to be upgraded at all either, because it doesn't affect how much HP regen you do get from Bountiful Light if you upgrade the chime as well. So you can have a base level chime here, guys, and use Bountiful Light with the Blessed Cestus for that HP regen. Anyways, guys, enough talk. Let's get straight into some matches here today and see how we go. Alrighty, guys, here we go. Looks like we got a shield and frayed blade build over there. Surprise running attack. Just gotta watch our stamina here. Made that mistake there of going in for that R1, not knowing that we could just poise through it. And GG. Alrighty, guys, next up in the arena. Looks like we have a Black Knight Great Axe over there. Wow, weapon art finish. That was fantastic, guys. GG. Alrighty, guys, next match in the arena. Looks like we have a katana user. Nope. Got him at the trade there. Perfectly timed. Gotta love it. GG. Alrighty guys, next match. Alright, Daniel 56922. Let's fight. Oh, jeez. R1 into the jumping attack. GG. Alrighty guys, straight onto the next match. Looks like we have a freeze, great scythe over there, and some spells. Pretty easy to dodge. Yep, he's not really going to hit us with that crystal soul spear. It's just way too slow for one-on-one PvP in my opinion. And that weapon art, no dramas for our Poise guys. GG. Alrighty guys, straight on to the next match. We have the split leaf greatsword over there. Surprise crossbow to the face. Oh, almost got him there. Whoop. Bit of lag, as usual. Picking him apart here with the crossbow. Gotta love it. Gotta love the crossbow. And game over. GG. Alrighty guys, straight on to the next match here. Looks like we have a massively large washing pole. Gotta love the extra large length of the washing pole. Just gotta watch out with our stamina here, but this guy, he likes being super aggressive, so let's hit him with some R1s from our straight sword. And GG. Alrighty guys, straight on to the next match. Looks like we have the split leaf greatsword here. Went in for a trade. No good for him. Got to be careful here because that weapon does hit quite hard. Let's see if he goes for... he switched up to the Farron greatsword. Big mistake on his part there. That weapon's too easy to read in my opinion. Alrighty guys, straight onto the next match. Looks like we have another katana over there. I didn't even realize I was one-handing my Greathammer there. Silly me. GG. Alrighty guys, next match. Looks like we have a katana over there. The Onakiri and Ubadachi. Likes to use that weapon art. Alright, he's going to go for the parries now. Let's bait one out. GG. So delayed R1s after you go for a roll, guys. It confuses these parry kings. Alrighty guys, straight on to the next match here today. Looks like we have the Harald curved greatsword over there. I like that greatsword. It's pretty awesome. Just so you know guys, we can poise through that weapon art. Easy peasy. There goes his tears. And GG. Alrighty guys, let's go for one last match here today. The Fallen Gods. Using the Falcon. I think that's how you pronounce it there. Ooh, mistimed that parry there for a big hit. Another big hit. Nicely done. Don't think so, buddy. And what did you do before? Gave us the welcome gesture? Yeah. There you go, buddy. GG. Alrighty guys, so that brings us to the end of the video here, taking a look at Morne's awesome Greathammer. And what can I say here about this Greathammer here today, guys? Well, look, in terms of the moveset, you're getting a pretty standard Greathammer moveset here, guys. Nothing fancy, but obviously fully functional, and you are looking to bait out those trades with this Greathammer, as you would with any Greathammer. So you're not really looking for anything too flashy in that regard. Now, in terms of combos that you can pull off with this Greathammer, and with most anyway, you've got the standard double R1 poising through attack, essentially, when you cause your opponent to stagger. You also have the R2 into the R1 bait. So what I like doing is I like using an R2 to bait my opponent into a follow-up R1, as you pretty much get into active frames pretty quickly for that second R1, and you can poise through your opponent's attacks fairly easily in that regard. And it's still quite an effective bait even this late into the game's life cycle. And also, of course, you have the R1 into the jumping attack, which is absolutely awesome to pull off and hits for a considerable amount of damage. Now, in terms of the weapon art here, guys, you are looking at Morne's Rage, which is pretty much, it reminds me of Wrath of the Gods here, and you do get a bit of a perseverance boost here, as you can see with the aura around your character that lasts for a couple of seconds. Now, look, in 1v1 PvP, the weapon art is not very consistent. I managed to pull it off here against one player who was just not expecting it, really. But against any decent player, I mean, they can read that weapon art from a mile away and just space you out. But I will say that the weapon art is probably a lot more useful in invasions, especially against inexperienced gank squads. I mean, if you can corner them at a ledge somewhere and pull off Morne's Rage, you'll probably send them flying off into the distance, which is, you know, it would be pretty funny to see. But in 1v1 duels, the weapon art is not very consistent in my opinion, and because we are poise optimized here using this Greathammer, we don't really need that perseverance boost unless you want to be trading against another heavy weapon art. So for example, something like the Ring Knight paired Greatswords weapon art. If you can time that Morne's Rage when they start up that weapon art, not only will you hit them, but you'll get a perseverance boost from Morne's Rage, and you'll be able to follow that up with a another R1 afterwards. So there is that. Now, another good thing about Greathammers and any heavy weapon, well, heavier weapon here, so Ultras, Great Axes and Greathammers, is the standard two-handed attacks are unparryable. So against inexperienced parry kings, you will throw them off and be able to hit them for a lot of damage. Otherwise, please be aware, guys, that the rolling and running R1s from this weapon are parryable, and the one-handed moveset is also parryable. But the standard two-handed attacks are unparryable, and you do have an advantage there, especially when you get really good at baiting out those trades. Another thing that I really love about this Greathammer, and something I mentioned at the start of the video, is the fact that you can minimize your poise with it. So like I mentioned at the start of the video, you only need to be above 42.16 base armor poise here to reach the ceiling breakpoint you need to hit using Morne's Greathammer. So normally you need 45.85 poise with any other Greathammer. So here you need a little bit less, which means you don't have to wear Havel's armor essentially to get up to that ceiling breakpoint here. And because, you know, Havel's is quite heavy, you can wear something a little bit lighter, like this combination of armor that I have here, and essentially that gives you a little bit more equip load to play around with, so you can fit a lot more options there in your other weapon slots to deal with different threats that the meta throws at you, which essentially increases your viability in the metagame, which is pretty awesome, guys. Now, in terms of weaknesses, obviously it's the Morne's Greathammer weaknesses are standard across any other Greathammer or heavy weapon in general, mainly that it's incredibly slow, so your attacks are really easy to dodge and read, so you're going to have to practice a lot in baiting out those trades. But obviously you do have some flexibility here to you know, use your other weapons in your other slots here to create some pressure against your opponent and mix up your attacks a little bit in order to force those trades, which is pretty good. Also, I will say that because it's a big weapon here, it is quite stamina intensive, so you really have to manage your stamina appropriately here, guys, so you don't get in that negative stamina zone, because you will be you know, counter-attacked quite severely if you do get in that negative stamina zone, guys. So you really have to pay attention to your stamina and ensure you have enough to roll away just in time to bait for the next trade, as opposed to leaving yourself wide open for a counter-attack. Now, another thing, guys, is this Greathammer is quite heavy. As you can see, it weighs 24 units, but to be honest with you, it's not really that big of an issue now this late in the game's life cycle, essentially because now you do have the +3 rings, you know, the Ring of Favor +3 and the Havel's +3 both increase your equipment load, and so does the Prisoner's Chain by increasing your vitality. So essentially the fact that this is heavy isn't such a big deal, but 24 units, you know, I guess is still pretty heavy, so I guess that would be a weakness, but it's a lot easier to mitigate now, you know, after the latest DLC. So that's pretty much it, guys. What can I say? I absolutely love this Greathammer, in my opinion. You know, for me personally, it is absolutely awesome because it gives me the opportunity to min-max my poise, and because my builds focus on, you know, optimal poise, this is one of the Greathammers that I can really min-max and take advantage of, and also increase its viability by adding so many different weapons to the weapon slots to deal with different threats that the meta throws at me. So if you are looking to create a heavy poise build and want to hit the ceiling breakpoint with the Greathammer class, the Morne's Greathammer is exceptionally good in this regard, because obviously you can min-max for it, and it will increase your viability by adding so much other different things into your weapon slots for versatility. So in that regards, guys, for your heavy poise builds, this Greathammer is absolutely awesome. So that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button. If you're enjoying my content, please subscribe. And as always, guys, thank you for watching. So until next time.